Hey everybody, welcome back to Stratego Freaks for another edition of the King of Strategus. We had a match last night, a real good one, a pretty exciting match between our current king, Marcy Regina Wu, and Akaboom. And it was a pretty good match. And once again, MRW retained the crown. But now, Nephandi is up to the plate and hopefully up to the task to take on Marcy Regina Wu, who's kind of been a little bit of a mentor and coach to Nephandi. So let's see if some of that coaching is going to pay off and has given Nephandi some insight on how to beat this wrecking ball of a player in Marcy Regina Wu. While we're waiting for our contestants, we'll jump over to the rankings once again. And not a lot has changed since yesterday. I do want to reiterate, since it's been updated, that our buddy and coach over on the Stratego Freaks Discord, Skyfall, is up to 725. That's pretty nice and playing very well and doing a great job. So clearly ascending the rankings and playing the game well and a student of the game and getting better. So, Skyfall's another young player, I think 17, 18 years old, and clearly hasn't hit his peak yet. And we're seeing that in real time right now as we watch the rankings go. One thing I want to mention, though, is that rankings go up and down. No one is immune to losses, and we can't get too, consumed by our ELO. And I know it. I mean, my ELO fluctuates all the time. It'll go up 100 points and go down 100 points in a couple of days. And, of course, I want to win as much as everybody else out there. But, ultimately, this is just a game, a fun game. And, I like to set goals. Nemesis also likes to set goals to see what we can accomplish. But it doesn't, it shouldn't affect our attitude, our happiness, and things like that. So I'm just sending a reminder out there to all the players that are, really concerned about their ELO. It's going to go up and down. Let's take these losses with as much joy as our wins and stay positive and have fun, regardless of the outcome of our games. It is what it is. It's a healthy mindset. I think most Stratego players are fairly competitive, and we all want to see, success in our lives, no matter what it is. And I think that's healthy as well. You want to compete, but part of competition is losing. And I know I've been a competitor in a lot of different realms. I've been an athlete. I've played sports, and I've gotten my butt kicked over the years. I'll be 57 this year. And when you get to my age and compete, you learn how to deal with losses. But it takes time. When I was younger, I was very, hyper emotional, and would try to just get revenge on those losses. And, it's not a healthy mindset. So, as I've gotten older, I've just learned to deal with those losses, and that just comes with maturity. And that's just a reminder to all of the younger players out there that are, possibly getting a little wound up with whatever they might be competing in their lives. So moving on, let's look at the rest of the roster here. Real solid top 20, all the way from 20 all the way up to number 1. I see Kenenkex. I butchered that name again. Kenenkex, the cannon cookie, which I prefer, and Jiren are neck and neck right there. Both really solid players. Really fun to watch those two guys bounce around up there. And I wonder what's going to happen today in this match between... Oh, there they are. Hopefully I'm not missing any action. So Marcy Regina Wu is ready, and Nephandi, I know, has been crunching the numbers and coming up with the setup that might work against the king. I mentioned yesterday, and here we go. I'm going to try to stay locked in today. And there's a front row captain. Marcy likes to exhaust a lot of scouts early in the game, and we're seeing that right now. It's almost more of a hindrance for Marcy Regina Wu to have those scouts on the board. Just gets in his way. I'll see, though. You can never predict what any player is going to do on any particular game. Marcy's known to be very unpredictable and change the setups. The one thing that has been a little bit predictable is those early 4 or 5 scouts. But other than that, you never know what you're going to get. And there we go with an exchange. So that captain is on B7, and now we have a lieutenant on J7. And I will forget those in the next 30 seconds. And there goes a sergeant down the drain for Nephandi. So we've got the 2 lieutenants on the I file and the captain on the B7 file, and a mystery piece shuffling over on I and J for both players. And another scout exhausted, and Marcy down to 1 scout. That's very typical. And now 2 captains are known, 1 on J and 1 on B. All right, a little jostling in the center and another piece coming down the center there on the F file. Interesting little pulling back on that piece. And I expect a patient game. I did talk to Nephandi a little yesterday. Nephandi's going to be working on time management. I know that can be a problem for a lot of players in these matches, myself included. And Nephandi's going to try to move a bit faster today. That's the one thing I know Nephandi's working on. And another sergeant absorbed. My 3D printer is finished a project, and you probably just heard that in the background. So, material advantage in Marcy Regina Wu's court. And we had seen Marcy go down in material in the last several games, and still found a way to win. And so this is odd to see Marcy up a couple of pieces here. Mystery pieces. So the INJ file seems to be a focal point for both players. Marcy applying a little bit of pressure there and stacking those 2 up on INJ. And now Nephandi is rotating another piece down. And coming straight down the A file. Now Marcy thinking for a moment and just retracts that piece. I do expect a patient game from both players. As I mentioned, Marcy has been coaching Nephandi a little bit, and I'm sure some of that patient play will wear off. And, that's kind of what you want. You don't need to be a total aggressive player all the time. I think you need to be able to switch gears. So now just a little bit of shifting of pieces, keeping things very confusing. And as you can see, though, Marcy is starting to pile up pieces near the setup there, trying to get down into Nephandi's setup and waiting for that moment to pull the trigger on that take, that key take. Nephandi's going to need to get those sergeants back at some point and not allow that material advantage to get out of hand. Marcy, very good playing behind and ahead, understands how to play in both of those positions. And when you let a good player get ahead of material, it's very hard to get control back. And that's a hit. And I'm going to get that captain, go up to captain and reveal the colonel, which I know that Marcy is fine with. Marcy knows how to deal with giving up a captain or two. Probably prefers knowing where that colonel is. And that colonel will become a target. Write that down, people, if you're new to the game. When you discover a piece, a high piece, whether it's even a major colonel, especially gen or marshal, you want to lock that into the memory banks and track that piece and figure out a way to apply pressure to it. All right, so now Nephandi getting the captain and getting one of those sergeants back. It only revealing the minimum. So Nephandi playing a very solid game thus far. Time is not a factor, very even on both sides. Nephandi clearly working on time management, and it shows. And retracts that colonel. And gets another sergeant. Quite a few pieces have moved for Nephandi. And let's say the marshal is revealed on Nephandi's side of the board, you know that Marcy Regina Wu will get that general in place to start attacking those moved pieces. That's a hit, absorbing a scout there. Nephandi still with 2 scouts. All right, a couple minute differential here in Marcy Regina Wu's favor. And I'm not making any early predictions yet. I want to take a look at as the bones of the setup get revealed. I'll probably make my assessment then. But flags could be anywhere. Marcy Regina Wu doing an open flag yesterday. And I think B and Nemesis and myself were both a little surprised by that, but I shouldn't be, because I've seen Marcy do open flags many times. Nephandi, former king, knocked off Nemesis a few weeks ago to attain that crown, so knows how to play the game. If you haven't liked and subscribed, do it. We just finally attained 200 subscribers, so congratulations to us. Oh, and that's a hit. And here comes the Colonel coming in hot, getting that captain back. And now Marcy Regina Wu up the lieutenant. That H8 square piece could be the spy. And now pushing down the right side of the board, and that colonel's going to back up to safety. And that's a hit. And now the major, but the colonel is known. I think that's 2 colonels known now. And retracts that colonel. And discovers the gen. That was a good little movement there by Marcy, using that scout, that last scout, to find the piece that he was looking for. So 2 colonels known and the gen. And everything very quiet except for that 1 colonel on Marcy's side of the board, which I think is on I3. Very even game right now. The information advantage goes to Marcy Regina Wu, whereas the big piece is in Nephandi's favor with that extra major. Always makes for an interesting game when it's the big piece versus the material advantage. We've got action here, people. Mystery piece coming off the A2. That could be anything. I don't know if that feels like a like a marshal. Okay, the colonel is moving over from Marcy. Now another piece backs up that I-file piece, and it slides over. And that's going to be an exchange of minors. Both players thinking the same thing there. I always like to see an early minor try to get down as a bluff piece. You never know if you can just open up your opponent's flag by getting that early minor down. Or discover a major piece, you know. I think, you know, of course, the value of minors go up depending on the situation on the board, and you're going to want to preserve your, you know, the majority of your minors going into the end game. You don't want to get in trouble by, you know, going down 3 early and then just having the 2, because next thing you know, you're down to 1, and if your opponent's flag is bombed in, you're in serious trouble to get there. Both players realize that and probably won't expend too many more unnecessarily. Saw my buddy Silver Hammer put out a video. Hopefully, I've been trying to leave a comment. Silver Hammer, if you're listening, I tried to leave a comment in your latest video, and for whatever reason, it is not allowing me to do that. If you're listening, I'd love to have you join me in some live streams. I need that Hammer energy, bud, and I know the Stratego community would love to have you join me. So reach out when you can, dude. Take your time, though. All right, so here we go. A lot of jostling here. Nephandi down to 9:52, and the time is starting to separate in Marcy Regina Wu's favor. AKA the Nuba. Marcy Nuba Wu. And that's going to be a hit there, just aggressive, coming down with the colonel, scooping up another lieutenant, unafraid. Now Nephandi in quite a little bit of trouble here. They're going to exchange there. But now up the captain, up the lieutenant. Still has the major advantage, but very interesting game. Excuse me. Clock is ticking for MRW. Plenty of time. This feels like an insta-hit right here. And it is, and does gobble up a sergeant. Nephandi sacrificing one of those scouts to get that piece. I think that was a fine move. More pressure for Marcy Regina Wu. That general still known. Really nice game so far from both players. Nephandi's going to need to grab, to tangle with Marcy in the end game. That material is going to need to even out. And he's going to need to make a move on a piece here at some point, whether it's a lotto or just an aggressive trapping move. You get down in material, even if you're up the big piece, you get stretched thin. This looks like another attacking. This might be another piece absorbed. And it is. Yeah, that felt like the time to do that. Marcy sensing that. Realizing it was an opportunity to grab another piece, and does. And now the material is getting a little out of hand here. The B2 or B9 piece came out of there, and that's a mystery piece. Marcy having the 3 lieutenants and a sergeant and even a minor there to use as a scouting piece to discover that marshal potentially, or colonel. I don't know. I think the other colonel was known, so I doubt that Marcy Regina Wu has forgotten the whereabouts of that colonel or Jen. How does Nephandi progress from here? You know, what is the plan? Being down that kind of material, it's very challenging. Spies still on the board, and we've seen some nice spy play by Marcy Regina Wu, and trying to get a read. I mean, that marshal has to be somewhere, and you know, you have to make an educated guess. If a mystery piece moves on to your spy, especially if your opponent is a little desperate for material and might be trying to, you know, bring down the marshal, then, you know, even if the spy is just used to discover a piece, it's sometimes worth it just to hit, even if you're wrong. Because if you're right, then, you know, if the marshal disappears right now for Nephandi, this game is going to be wraps. So you got to be very careful playing aggressively with the marshal in a situation like this, because there could just be an insta-hit with the spy. Nephandi being patient, and it kind of has to be a little bit because, if the marshal is discovered now, then it's going to be real problems. But, you got to keep track of Marcy's general and maybe position your general to stop an attack if you plan on using the marshal aggressively. But I can guarantee that Marcy's spy is ready to rock and roll. Now, Marcy, being the aggressor, has 3 different pieces on the front lines there and 3 ready to go behind, and is pushing into the setup and does grab a lieutenant. And that needed to happen. If Nephandi wants a chance to win this game, those pieces need to come back. Now aggressively coming up the center. What is this piece? Colonel? Marshal? Pinching this off, looking to come around and make things very difficult. Another piece moved. And now MRW bringing up this B1 mystery piece. Maybe looking to use it as a scout. Could be the marshal. Possibly a minor. Nephandi down to 6 minutes and pushing up on that piece. And coming or shooting this piece around. Migrating it over to the right side of the board. And the action is now coming over to I and J. Now switching and coming over with this piece here. Very interesting. Four-minute time advantage for Marcy Regina Wu and pushing. What is that piece? Both marshals very secret right now. That's aggressive. And hits it, utilizing that extra captain perfectly. Now applying a lot of pressure here. And going to back up that captain. So now down 2 captains, 2 lieutenants. Storming up the board over here on the left side. Really fine play here from Marcy Regina Wu, keeping the pressure on, getting the boa constrictor pieces, just surrounding and attacking, not letting Nephandi breathe at all. And there's the marshal using the minor as the discovery piece, and that was the discovery that Marcy was looking to get right there. Expertly done. Now can pressure. Knows the location of the marshal. There's going to be that exchange. But now that the marshal's known, that's very difficult. This board is going to get stretched out. And the spies are just secret. And I think, Marcy might have a read. Let's see what happens here. I mean, this is looking like it's going to have to be a miracle win here for Nephandi. There's a lot going in Marcy Regina Wu's favor. I mean, he does have that extra major, but the information and the material is looking very, very strong for Marcy Regina Wu. Not over yet. That's a fact. Nephandi looking to chase these pieces out of there. Feels like Marcy's flag is well protected, though. There's little to no danger right now on that side of the board. There's no pieces down in the setup. And an exchange of marshals would be just catastrophic. It would be too much. And that's a hit on that major. And that's it. It's over there. That was the move that ended the game. Congratulations to Marcy Regina Wu, just really ratcheting up, making timely decisions and attacks, sensing the board and the position, scooping up that extra material down there, and it just became unsurmountable. And, that's why Marcy's the king. Another great job. That's 13 in a row for Marcy Regina Wu. Nephandi, great job for jumping in there and playing very tightly, but just, I think the king is the king for a reason, and we're seeing it right now. So I think Nemesis is next on the list. That should be one of a really competitive game. Those two players, Nemesis and Marcy, have locked up so many times, and it's always been a coin flip, and I expect it to be no different in the next time they play. So stay tuned for that. They'll probably schedule that very soon, and we'll see what happens. If you haven't liked and subscribed, do it now. Help us out. All the support is very helpful to us. We're really trying to promote the game, grow the game. If you love Stratego, help us grow it too. Join the Discord. If you're looking for coaching, come on in. to the Home of Stratego Freaks Discord, and we've got a bunch of players. It's not just the coaches in our roster, but everybody that's a member there is willing to give the insight and any information that they have to make you a better player. Come on in and ask questions. We'd love to answer some of those for you. And don't forget to check out our donation page or link. Any donation is a good donation, and it really helps what we're trying to accomplish here. So help us grow the game, and let's grow this community together. Guys, I got to go. Congratulations both to Marcy and Nephandi for stepping up and playing great Stratego, and we all appreciate it. So, guys, I do have to go. I'll see you on Strategus. I'll see you on Stratego.com, and I'll beat you there too. Bye.